Welcome back to part 20 of the Frogger mini-series, and in this video we're going to be creating the title screen widget for this prototype. Let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Alright, so open up our content drawer. We're going to come into our widgets folder. I'm going to right click and create a new user interface widget blueprint. Then we'll simply select user widget and we'll give it a title, WBP_title screen. Then we'll press enter or double click to open that up, and we'll begin working on actually designing what our title screen is going to look like. So the first thing we should start off with is a simple canvas panel. So we can drag that over here. And then we'll start with, most of these are going to be text elements because we're going to try to imitate the classic Frogger arcade screen, which is basically just text. There's no real buttons from what I can tell on the older screenshots, but we'll drag one out here. I'm going to select center anchor. I'm going to go back, hold control, select center, and then go back and hold shift and select center. That'll center the text up there. We'll also want to check the box to do size to content, and then the text, we're going to call this Frogger, and then we're going to bump up the size a bit. Now I think it'd be fun if we use a designer font. So what I'm going to do is, inside my widgets folder, I have a pixel font that I got from the web. So we'll go ahead and drag this in over here. And it should kick off an import. There we go. So it'll ask you if you would like to create a new font asset. You'll choose yes. And it supports TrueType and OpenType fonts. So if you get any of those from the web, those should work just fine. Now with that imported, we can go into our actual font and we can change the font family to be that pixel font here. Now I'm going to increase the size here, maybe somewhere around there. Then I'm also going to add a Y position offset just to bump this closer to the top of the screen. So maybe right about there. I also think it'd be nice if we change the color. I think I'm going to do a type of yellowish green, so maybe somewhere around there. And then if we go through the shadow offset here, I'm going to add in a yellow offset. And then I think I will push this probably just a smidge down and to the right. So maybe I'll do 5 and 4 just to kind of give it a subtle outline there. Another thing we'll want to do is we'll want to add a backdrop. So we'll search for image, drag that here, and then for the Z order, I'm going to put that on -1 so it's behind everything. And then under anchor, I'm going to select full screen, go back and hold control and select full screen. And then we're going to make this a nice black, so that way everything kind of contrasts a little bit better there. All right, and the next thing we'll want to do is we will add in another text element. So we'll select text here, drag it in, and I'm going to anchor the center. So go back, hold control, and then hold shift, and then do the size to content as well. This one, I'm kind of using a reference image, so it's kind of hard to see. But it looks like they have just some instructions, like you can press these two keys, escape and P, to pause and exit the game or quit the game. So we'll code that logic in later, but we'll make it available on the title screen because that's what they did in the classic arcade game. So at least what I can see from these reference images here. And then the color they went with looks like kind of like a purplish bluish there. And then maybe they went a little bit lighter. And let's bump this up. 80 in size looks fine. And then we'll maybe do -236. And then for the X position, this one was right around here. All right. And then it might actually be easier if I'm going to duplicate this. And this one is actually going to be equals quit. And this one is actually a different color. It's more of a kind of an orange. Maybe somewhere around there. Now I was hoping it would keep my offsets, but it doesn't look like it does, but that's all right. We'll make it work. I think the size is probably too small, so let's try 64. And we'll try 64 with this as well. And we're just basically switching the position or any offset just to kind of butt them up here. All right, and then we will duplicate this one again. This time it is going to be just the letter P. And that is 64, that looks fine. We're just gonna bump it up here, negative 236. And then the position was just to the right. And then for the equals quit, we can right click, duplicate that one. And this one is going to be equals pause. I think it was what, negative 236 for the Y. And we just offset the X value. So there we go. So we just sort of have this little instructional set and that looks good. And then there was additional text that shows the high score, and then it has press fire to play. And then there's like a copyright blurb that we can add in as well, just to keep it authentic. So we'll add another text block here. We'll anchor that center, hold Control, hold Shift, and then size the content. And this one will just be high score. And then we'll set that to be the pixel font. And this one will match the Frogger color scheme. So that was this little lime green here. And then we'll bump up the size a bit. Keep it smaller than the main text, but pretty close to it. And then we'll just bump this up. Maybe negative 113. And then we can duplicate this one. And this is actually going to be our score. So instead of a text block, we'll make this something just called our, we'll call it our high score. And we're going to check the box for is variable. And I already forgot what the Y value was, negative 113. So we'll do negative 113 to match, and then we'll just push it over. This one is also a different color. We'll match this to what our score color is, which is the real bright red. So that looks good. All right, and then for the high score, we'll duplicate that one again. Instead of high score, this will be press fire to play. I guess maybe the old arcade cabinets had a fire button. And then we'll maybe pinch this down a bit. And then I think we need one more text element, so we'll drag this on. We'll anchor it center here as well. And we'll just add an offset. All right, and this one's going to be a little bit more wordy, so we'll have this one. Gonna do copyright. Actually, I might do all caps. We'll do copyright 1981 Sega Enterprises Incorporated. And then we'll do by. We'll do my name. And we'll just say this is a YouTube tutorial. And we'll keep it authentic with their actual location. This one I'm going to set the justification to be center, which is down here. That way it kind of outlines like that. And then for the Y position, I'll just position this kind of like right here. We'll do size to content. And I gotta offset that a little bit more. And we'll use the same font. And then we'll have to bump it up because that font just looks a little bit too small. So maybe right there. So we'll do 321 on the Y. I think this is looking good for our basic screen here. Now, one thing we're going to want to do is for the actual high score, which remember we made a variable, we'll want to come to the graph and we'll want to add in a custom event node. We say maybe update high score, and we can tell that to have a input. We'll just say high score for the actual variable name. This will of course be a float. And then you'll notice on the left hand side it has our high score variable. We can hold control, drag that out. We can pull off that, and there's a function to set the text value. And then we can just simply pass in the score value kind of from anywhere. We'll be doing it from our game manager because that's what's managing our score. So when the game's like over, we'll create a save state too. Like I'll show you how to actually store this and write this to a file on your PC or on the player's PC. And when the game starts up, it can read that so you can see who had the highest score at a game over screen and at the title screen. So I think that'll be kind of neat. So we'll at least have a way to update that value. But the other thing we'll want to do is we'll need to create a way to actually pull this off the screen. We could, abruptly remove it, but it'd be neat to kind of animate it off the screen, I think. So we can come to our animation folder here, hit the little plus sign to add a new animation. Then we can maybe call this fade out. And if you click on it to select it, we can then add an animation track. So there's all named widgets. There's a reference to this, which is basically a reference to the entirety of the widget. So you can animate individual components and target them, or you can animate the entire thing. So I'm going to animate the entire thing just to make it easy. And you can get as advanced, like you can animate maybe the image background at a quicker pace and leave the Frogger text on the screen. And then animate that away a little bit later. So maybe we'll play around with that, but let's just make it simple for now. We'll do the whole thing, and we'll do the render opacity. And we'll start at a render opacity of 1. And then after maybe 2 seconds, we'll set that to be 0. So basically it'll kind of just, when we play this animation, it'll just kind of fade out of existence. And then we'll use the code to pull the widget and remove it from the screen entirely. And that'll be a nicer look, I think. So if we compile and save that, we can come to our graph, and now we can create a new custom event called play animation. Actually, that's already being used, so play fade out. And then what we can do is we have our animation reference, so we could just get this, call play animation. Then of course you can target things like the start time if you want it to loop, all sorts of stuff, playback speed. But I think what we'll do is we'll just come into a delay node and we'll just wait 2 seconds for it to go. Which actually we don't, we could remove it from here, but thinking about it, we don't really need to. So we'll wait on that. We'll just be able to call this from the game manager. Because normally the way I do this is I will do the title screen as a separate level. So then I would like wait 2 seconds, and then I would do open level by name. But we technically don't have to do that. We could do this all on the same level, and we'll just we'll play the animation, and then we'll wait the 2 seconds on the game manager side, and then we'll just pull it off the screen and then start to play. But let's see what this actually looks like. So if we go back to our screen, let's go into our blueprints folder. Right now our game manager is handling all the logic for the widgets, right? So we have our event begin play, and it's creating that HUD element. So if we play the game, we kind of just are thrown right into it. What we can do is, for now, we can disconnect this here, and we'll move this back, and we'll just say create widget, and this will be the title screen, and then we'll promote it to a variable, and we'll call title screen reference, and that's actually good from there. And then what we'll want to do is go into our player blueprint, and at begin play, if I could find it, we're casting the game manager, storing as a reference, and then adding the HUD reference to the viewport. So instead of doing that, we'll get the title screen reference, and we'll just add that to viewport just so we can see what it's going to look like. So we're going to be changing this in a later vid, but when we play the game, we can actually see, you know, nothing actually works. We can't press fire to play, and escape will obviously work to quit, but the high score and everything else isn't being passed over, so we'll still need to code all that logic. So, but this is just a good, you know, take a look at it, see if you like the text, fonts, or if you want to change anything or adjust the sizes or what have you. But I think it looks pretty good. So, all right, everyone, we'll cut it here, but in the next one, we'll code the logic to pull the title widget on and off the screen. But as always, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.